Hello all. So today I'll be discussing in detail about the different mechanisms of reinforcement action in soils. So this is basically an overview of the topics which I'll be explaining through this video. So first I'll give a brief introduction about reinforced earth or reinforced soil. Then I'll give a brief introduction about the triaxial test, the method of conducting the triaxial test. Then I'll have the strength analysis of unreinforced soil through triaxial test explained. Afterwards, I'll explain the strength analysis of reinforced soil through triaxial test. Then at last, I'll explain the different concepts of reinforced soil which have been developed by conducting a series of triaxial tests on reinforced soil. So the three major concepts which I'll be explaining today are concept of apparent cohesion, concept of equivalent confining pressure, and concept of expanding soil mass. The term reinforced earth or reinforced soil means soil which is incorporated with some inclusions in it. Now these inclusions are what we call as reinforcements. Now reinforcements can be of different materials and different forms. The basic idea of introducing a material or a reinforcement material in soil is to improve its strength. Now this concept was first brought by or developed by a French architect named Henri Vidal in the year 1963. Now see, this concept is developed for dry cohesionless granular soils. Now he got this idea while he was on a beach. Okay, so his kids were making mounds of dry sand on the beach, and then they started jumping on it, and suddenly it all collapsed. But then later he observed that his kids started reinforcing these mounds of sand with pine needles, with horizontal layers of pine needles, and then the same sand mound could be made at a steeper angle also when it was reinforced with such pine needles. And after making that reinforced sand mound, when his kids jumped on it, it did not fail. So this totally amused him. So he took this idea and went back to his laboratory, and what he did was that he reinforced his soil with strips. Okay, and then conducted several strength tests on such reinforced soil. So the basic conclusion which he came on to was that a dry cohesionless soil which is reinforced with a material having some tensile strength. Okay, now this is important. The material which reinforces the soil should have some tensile strength. Okay, then only it will serve the purpose, because soil is very weak in tension, and that is why we introduce a material having tensile strength in soil. So when a soil is combined with such a material, what happens is that the strength of such composite material will be much higher than the strength of soil alone. Okay, so since the invention of reinforced soil, it has found several applications in different areas of civil engineering, and now this is a commonly practiced technology in various areas of civil engineering. So now we will see how a triaxial test is conducted on a soil. See, triaxial test is one of the shear strength tests which is conducted to analyze the shear strength parameters of the soil. But why we choose a triaxial test over other methods of shear strength test is that this gives you a more representative value of shear strength parameters. Why? Because in triaxial strength, you might have seen that the soil is actually pressurized from all directions. Okay, so that means the soil itself is laterally confined in all directions, confined from all directions. And if you can imagine an actual field condition also, and if you can consider a soil within certain depth, that element of soil is actually confined from all directions, right? So in triaxial test also, we will simulate the same field conditions. That is, we will confine the soil sample from all directions, and then we will apply some normal loads. Okay, so these loads will be representative of the loads which usually come from the foundations. Okay, Now for the triaxial test, the type of samples that we adopt is cylindrical samples having height to diameter ratio greater than 2. So you will find that you will find heights of samples as 80 mm, 110 mm to 220 mm, and diameter of samples are usually in the range of 37 mm, 50 mm, 100 mm, even 300 mm samples are used or also used. Okay, so here as you can see in the picture, this is how a triaxial sample would look like. Okay, so this is the triaxial sample. Now here as you can see, this same cylindrical sample is confined from all directions. Okay, so sigma 3 denotes the confining pressure acting on the sample, soil sample. So this is a representative of the field condition itself. Now in a laboratory, how we simulate this confining pressure is that we will have the sample encapsulated within a rubber membrane, and the same sample will be kept in the triaxial chamber, and the confining pressure will be applied by means of water pressure. Okay, so it will be water pressure which will be applied in the cylindrical soil sample to give the confining stress sigma 3. Now if we want to apply the vertical load, the vertical loads are applied in the form of sigma d. Okay, so you will have a load cell on top of the cylindrical sample to measure the load coming, the vertical load or the normal load coming onto the soil sample. So the sigma d is that additional vertical load acting on the soil sample in addition to this confining pressure sigma 3. So sigma d is also called as the deviator stress. Now your total normal stress will be equal to this sigma 3 plus sigma d. Okay, so your normal stress will be equal to the confining pressure plus the deviatoric pressure or deviatoric stress. So you can find the deviatoric stress as sigma 1 minus sigma 3. Okay, so this is how the soil sample will be stressed in a triaxial test. So basically, while conducting the test, we will conduct the test for a constant confining pressure. Okay, so for a constant confining pressure, we will apply an axial strain and then corresponding load will be measured. Okay, so this is basically a strain controlled test. So what you get is the deviatoric stress, because you are conducting the test for a constant confining pressure, and then what you do is you will increase the, or you will start applying the axial strain. Okay, and then you will measure the corresponding stress. So here the stress is your deviator stress. Now that stress will be applied up to a particular limit or until the failure of the soil. So the peak deviatoric stress will be obtained. So if you want the normal stress sigma 1, that will be the sigma 3 plus this sigma d, which is the deviatoric stress. Okay. Now once the test is conducted, we can analyze the strength, or we can interpret the strength from plots of Mohs circles. Okay, so Mohs circle is basically a plot between the normal stress and shear stress. So once conducting the test, we can plot Mohs circles, and from Mohs circle you can determine the strength parameters. Okay, so the same strength parameter can be interpreted by drawing a graph between mean normal stress and mean shear stress also. Now the usual rupture plane which is observed for such triaxial samples is as shown here. So this is the usual rupture plane which is observed for triaxial soil samples.
First, we'll look into the strength analysis of unreinforced soil. So for the same, triaxial test will be conducted on cylindrical soil samples, and the soil chosen will be a dry cohesionless soil such as sand. See, always for the purpose of making a reinforced soil composite, a frictional soil is preferable over cohesive soil, because a soil with a high angle of internal friction will always provide a better interaction between the soil and the reinforcement, and therefore for the purpose of making a reinforced earth, The choice will always be a cohesionless, that is a frictional soil. And here this cylindrical soil sample is subjected to confining stress sigma 3 on all sides, and we will be applying basically we'll be applying axial strains at certain intervals and noting down the corresponding normal stress. Okay, so here what we get here is we'll be applying deviator stress. Okay, because sigma 3 will be acting on all sides, so the additional normal load that we get is called as a deviator stress. So total normal stress or load will be sigma 3 plus the deviator stress. Okay, so that is sigma 1. So here we have to find the parameters of unreinforced soil, strength parameters. So for the same we need to know how does the soil feel. So usually this kind of rupture planes are observed in most of the triaxial test samples, and therefore to start with we'll assume a rupture plane inclined at angle theta to the major principal plane AB. Okay, so this rupture plane PR is just an arbitrary rupture plane to start with. And here the stresses to be found out are sigma n, that is normal stress, and toe shear stress acting on the rupture plane. And as you can see here, sigma 1 acts on DC and AB. So DC and AB are called as major principal planes, and then BC and AD, on which the sigma 3 acts, are called as minor principal planes. So they are called as principal planes because, as you can see, there are only normal stresses and there are no shear stresses acting on these planes, and that is why they are called as principal planes. And usually the rupture plane will be aligned at such an angle where there is maximum obliquity between this normal stress and shear stress. Okay, so what we need to find here is we have to find the forces sigma n and tau acting on the arbitrary rupture plane PR, okay, which is inclined at angle theta to the major principal plane AB. So first, in order to get these forces, we have to consider the equilibrium of the wedge, which means the equilibrium conditions are what? Sigma V is equal to 0 and sigma H is equal to 0. So with respect to this plane, we will resolve the forces normal to the plane and parallel to the plane. So first we will resolve the forces normal to the plane PR. So that will be sigma n into PR into 1. Okay, that is in the perpendicular direction, is equal to sigma 1 into PB into cos theta, which is the component perpendicular to this plane of analysis, and then plus sigma 3 into BR into sin theta. Sin theta is a component perpendicular to this plane of analysis. Now cos theta and sin theta can be written in terms of the geometry. So cos theta is equal to PB by PR and sin theta is equal to BR by PR. Okay, so what you can do is, in this equation you can substitute for PB and BR in terms of cos theta sin theta equations. So all the PR will get cancelled in all the terms, and you will finally get an equation which has to be solved, and the final equation which you get for sigma n is sigma 1 plus sigma 3 by 2 minus sigma 1 minus sigma 3 by 2, the whole into cos theta. So there are two terms here. Here sigma 1 plus sigma 3 by 2 is called as the mean normal stress P, and sigma 1 minus sigma 3 by 2 is called as the mean shear stress Q. Now once we have resolved forces normal to the plane PR, now we will resolve forces parallel to the plane PR. So then we will get tau into PR into 1 plus sigma 3 into BR, this is BR, sigma 3 into BR into cos theta is equal to sigma 1 into PB. Okay, PB into sin theta. So we'll get tau as sigma 1 minus sigma 3 by 2 into sin 2 theta.
Now, we considered the failure wedge, and then we found out the forces sigma n and tau by resolving the forces normal and parallel to the plane PR. Okay, so that is one way of finding sigma n and tau of the rupture plane, acting on the rupture plane. The another way to find the shear stress and the normal stress, that is the tau and sigma n acting on the rupture plane, is by drawing the Mohs circle directly. Okay, so because Mohs circle can be drawn if you know the values of the normal stress sigma 1 and the confining stress sigma 3, you have already studied in GTE. And here O1 is the pole. So using the principle of pole, we can find out the values of the shear stress and normal stress acting on the rupture plane inclined at an angle theta. See, when any line drawn through at an angle theta through the pole and will intersect at a point on the Mohs circle. Okay, so the point where it intersects will give you the, here we have drawn through O1 at an angle theta, it intersects the Mohs circle at Q. So these ordinates become, this y ordinate becomes tau and the x ordinate becomes sigma n. Okay, so any line drawn at an angle theta through the pole which intersects at a point on the Mohs circle will give you the corresponding shear stress and normal stress acting on the rupture plane. Okay, so here the radius becomes sigma 1 minus sigma 3 by 2, and from origin to the center of the circle is sigma 1 plus sigma 3 by 2. Okay, now so using the geometry we can find out, using this triangle itself we can find out what is tau and sigma n. So you will get the same answers. Okay, same answers, that is tau you will obtain as sigma 1 minus sigma 3 by 2 into sine 2 theta, and sigma n you will obtain as sigma 1 plus sigma 3 by 2 plus sigma 1 minus sigma 3 by 2 into cos 2 theta. Okay, so basically you can obtain the shear stress and normal stress acting on the rupture plane, okay, at an angle theta of the soil sample, either by considering the equilibrium of the wedge, or you can just draw the Mohs circle and find out those forces. Okay. Now we have found out that for the arbitrary plane PR inclined at angle theta, what are the normal force and shear stress acting on the rupture plane. Okay, but we also need to find out what is the actual normal stress at failure. Okay, because we need to know at what normal stress this sample fails, that is sigma 1 at failure we need to find out. Also we need to find out what is the actual angle of theta at which the failure plane occurs in the soil sample. Okay, so those two things are critical. We have to find that. Okay, now what we have done previously is we have found out the normal stress and shear stress for acting on a arbitrary rupture plane inclined at an angle theta to the major principal plane. But now we are going to find out what is the actual angle theta at failure. Also, at what normal stress does the soil sample fail? That is sigma 1f. Okay. So how we are going to find out is, so already we have got the values of this shear stress and normal stress for an arbitrary plane theta, arbitrary rupture plane theta. Now this is the Mohr-Coulomb failure criterion, that is shear stress is equal to C plus normal stress into tan phi. So what we can do is we can substitute the values of shear stress and normal stress in the Mohr-Coulomb failure criterion. Okay, and this is how it will look like once we have substituted the values of sigma n and tau in Mohr-Coulomb failure criterion. Then we will rearrange the equation to get sigma 1. So it will look like this. Okay, once we have rearranged the equation in terms of sigma 1, then what we have to do? Our intention is to find the angle theta. Okay, we need to find angle theta. That is the angle theta at failure. Okay, that is the actual rupture plane we need to find out. Which means we have to differentiate this denominator in order to get the normal stress at failure, we have to differentiate this denominator and differentiate the denominator in terms of theta. Because here if you see all other parameters, they are all constants. The only arbitrary variable here is the theta. Rest all phi, sigma 3, they are all c, they are all constants. Okay, so the only variable is theta. So we will differentiate the denominator with respect to theta and equate it to 0. So theta was the only variable in that equation. So we differentiated the denominator with respect to theta and equated it to 0. So we got this equation. Okay. So final equation that we get is theta f is equal to 45 plus 5 by 2. Now this is a very important result because we are in many applications we assume the failure surface to be inclined at an angle of 45 plus 5 by 2. Now if you remember in the retaining wall also we had considered the failure plane to be inclined at 45 plus 5 by 2. Now if you substitute this theta f, which is the failure angle, in the equation of sigma 1, you will get the sigma 1 at failure, okay, as 1 plus sin phi by 1 minus sin phi into sigma 3 plus 2c by 1 minus sin phi into cos phi. So finally you will get the equation as sigma 1 f is equal to kp into sigma 3 plus 2c root kp. Here kp is actually 1 plus sin phi by 1 minus sin phi. It is the coefficient of passive earth pressure. Okay, so this is also a very important relation connecting the normal stress and confining stress. Okay, now the same relation can be derived by drawing the Mohs circle also. That is, you can draw the Mohs circle using the sigma 1 at failure and sigma 3. Okay, and here this is the strength envelope, and this is your rupture plane. So from the geometry we can find out what is from the triangle OPQ. You can consider sin phi, that is PQ by OQ, and PQ by OQ can be split as OO1 plus O1Q. Okay. Further, from the geometry you can substitute the values, and then on further simplification you will get the same relation as before. That is sigma 1 at failure is equal to Kp into sigma 3 plus 2c root Kp. Now these are all familiar to you because you have already studied all these relations in geotechnical engineering. Now for a cohesionless soil, C will be 5. So your limiting stress sigma 1 at failure will be equal to Kp into sigma 3. Okay. Or in other words, you can write sigma 3 as 1 by Kp into sigma 1f, which is Ka. Okay. So these are the relation between sigma 1 and sigma 3. So earlier we saw how we did the strength analysis of unreinforced soil samples from triaxial test results. Okay. So here we are going to see how to do the strength analysis of a reinforced soil using triaxial test results. So for a triaxial soil sample, it's a cylindrical soil sample. So there the soil will be reinforced using some circular disc reinforcements placed at certain intervals. So that interval becomes the vertical spacing between the reinforcement layers, and it's a very important factor which decides, it is one of the important parameters which decides on the strength of the soil reinforcement composite. Okay, now we'll just see what are the forces which develop in reinforcement layer. Okay, suppose due to the normal stresses sigma v acting on the soil reinforcement composite, the shear resistance developed along the length of the reinforcement will be the normal stress into the length of the reinforcement into width. Okay, so now you got the force in kilonewton. Now since it is a shear resistance, it should be multiplied with the friction factor. Okay, so that is why here we have tan delta. Tan delta, it is also called as mu. Okay, it is a friction factor, mu or tan delta. Here delta is actually the interface angle between the soil and the reinforcement. Now how that is relevant is, see, if your interface angle is small, then it implies that your reinforcement has a smooth surface. So there will not be proper interlocking mechanism or proper interaction between the soil and the reinforcement. Okay. But if your interface angle is high, which means that, your reinforcement has a rough surface, so there will be better interlocking properties between the soil and the reinforcement. Okay, so here this force is multiplied by 2 because this acts on either sides of the reinforcement. Okay, so this is the total shear resistance developed along the length of the reinforcement. Okay, now we need to see before we get into the triaxial test, we need to analyze what are the possible ways in which a reinforcement can fail within a soil reinforcement composite. Okay. See, there are two ways in which a reinforcement can fail. The reinforcement can fail either by pull out or it can fail either by rupture. Okay. So the reinforcement fails by pull out when there are two conditions here actually. See, it can fail by pull out if the reinforcement has insufficient embedment length beyond the rupture plane. Okay, then it will fail by pull out. Or the second case is if the shear resistance developed is lesser than the tensile strength of the reinforcement. Then what happens? The reinforcement has a tendency to get pulled out of the this composite material. Okay, so two ways in which pull out failure can occur is one is due to insufficient embedment length beyond the rupture plane, and second is when the shear resistance developed along the reinforcement is lesser than the tensile strength of the reinforcement. Then due to the normal stresses acting on the reinforcement, this reinforcement will have a tendency to get pulled out. Okay. Now the second mode of failure is rupture failure. That is when the shear resistance, that is RP, developed along the length is greater than the tensile strength. Then what happens? It can no more take that force. So the reinforcement will simply fail by rupture. Okay. So you will have to remember that these are the two ways in which a reinforcement can fail.
So the reinforced soil samples are also prepared using dry cohesionless soils such as sands, and here the reinforcements are given in the form of circular discs which are placed at certain intervals along the height of the soil. So those intervals are called as the vertical spacing between the reinforcement layers. And that is also an important parameter which decides on the strength of reinforced soil. So here, as you can see from the diagram, these dotted lines are the reinforcements placed at certain spacing. Okay, this is the vertical spacing between the reinforcement layers. SV, it is denoted as SV. Now the same sample will be subjected to confining stress on all sides, and it will be subjected to an additional deviator stress on top. Now, so the deviator stress plus confining stress is equal to this sigma 1, that is a normal stress. Okay. Now, as usual, we'll consider an arbitrary rupture plane BC here because this is how normally the soil samples would fail. And so we have to consider the equilibrium of the wedge to analyze the shear stress and normal stress acting on the plane BC. That is, BC is the rupture plane considered. Here, one additional force which comes into play is the summation of T, that is sigma T. Now, sigma T is actually the net tensile forces of all the reinforcement layers cut by this rupture plane. Okay, so that means the reinforcement layers in the wedge of soil that we are considering. Okay, so the sigma T is actually equal to the tensile strength of a single layer, that is Tu, into the number of reinforcement layers cut by this failure plane. Okay. So this wedge will be equilibrium under the forces sigma 3, which is a confining pressure acting on the face AB, which is the minor principal plane, and then sigma 1, which is a normal stress acting on the major principal plane AC, and then we have the sigma N and tau, that is the normal stress and shear stress acting on the rupture plane BC, And then we have the net tensile forces that is contributed by all the reinforcement layers cut by this rupture plane. So first we have to consider the failure wedge. This is the failure wedge. Okay. Here our rupture plane BC is considered to be inclined at angle theta with the minor principal plane. See, in the earlier analysis for unreinforced soil, we had considered the rupture plane inclined at angle theta with the major principal plane. See, you can take whichever way you want. Either it has to be inclined with minor principal plane or it can be inclined with major principal plane. Either ways, it should be the same answer that you're getting. Correct answer. Okay. So here we have sigma 1, sigma 3, then other unknown forces are sigma n and tau acting on the rupture plane BC, and then we have the summation of the tensile forces sigma t. So let us take the length of this BC as, that is a rupture plane, as small b. So then we can find AB and AC in terms of b. So AB will be b cos theta and AC will be b sin theta. Now, in order to find out the unknown forces, we can consider the equilibrium of the wedge. So, first we will resolve the forces perpendicular to the plane BC. So, we will get sigma 1 into b sin theta is equal to tau b cos theta plus sigma n b sin theta. And then we will resolve the forces parallel to the plane BC. So, we will get sigma 3 into b sin theta plus sigma of capital T, that is the total tensile forces contributed by all the reinforcement layers, plus tau b sin theta is equal to sigma n into b cos theta. Now we will take the Mohr-Coulomb criterion, that is tau is equal to c plus sigma n tan phi. But here, since we are doing the test on dry cohesionless soil, our c value will be 0. So therefore tau will be sigma n into tan phi. Now we can substitute this value of tau in equations 1 and 2. Okay, so then we'll get these equations 3 and 4. Once we have substituted the value of tau as sigma n into tan phi in equation 1 and 2, we will get equations 3 and 4. Now let us take equation 3. So from equation 3 we can write down, see, sigma n is the unknown force which we have to find. So we'll write that equation 3 in terms of sigma n, and we will get the final equation as this, that is equation 5. We'll get sigma n is equal to sigma 1 sin theta cos phi divided by sin theta plus phi. So next what we'll do is, we'll substitute the value of sigma n which we just found out, and we'll substitute that in equation 4. Okay, so equation 4 involving this sigma t. Then finally, on further solving that, we will get the final equation for sigma 1 as sigma 1 is equal to sigma 3 tan of theta plus phi, so the whole divided by tan theta, plus sigma t by b into tan theta plus phi, the whole divided by sin theta. So in this equation, the unknowns are sigma t and theta. So theta is the failure angle which we have to find. So theta is basically the angle of the rupture plane. So since we have considered an arbitrary rupture plane till now, we have to find out the actual angle at which the rupture plane occurs in soil. Okay, and also we need to find out sigma t. Now sigma t is actually the summation of all forces, all the tensile forces of all the reinforcement layers coming under this failure wedge. Okay, so this can be found out only by considering the two different types of failure of reinforcements. See, reinforcement can fail either by pull out or by rupture. Okay, so we'll have to consider those two cases separately and then analyze and then find out the failure angle theta as well as the normal stress at failure or the normal stress of the reinforced soil at failure. Okay. So the component that we have to find is sigma t.
okay, in the previous equation. So sigma T is basically the total tensile forces of all the reinforcement layers placed within the wedge that we have considered. So this, one second. So this is our wedge which we have considered for analysis, and B is the length of the rupture plane. So if you want to get the total height, that will be B cos theta. Okay, so total height divided by the spacing between the layers will give you the number of reinforcement layers. Okay, so basically total number will be B cos theta by SV. Now we need to determine what is the sigma T. Okay, that is total tensile force. See, that depends upon whether the mode of failure of reinforcements. Now, since this is a reinforced soil, we will have to consider the mode of failure of the reinforcement. Okay, so reinforcement can fail either by rupture or by pull out. So if the mode of failure is by rupture, then the equations for sigma T will be Tu into, that is a force in one reinforcement layer into the total number of reinforcements. Okay, so total number of reinforcements is given by the equation B cos theta by SV. Now if the failure mode is by pull out, then the equation for sigma T will be 2 sigma 1 Le into Br into mu. Br is the width of the reinforcement, Le is the embedment length of the reinforcement, mu is the friction factor. So that is force in one reinforcement layer. That into the total number of layers given by B cos theta by SV. Okay. So one by one, what we'll do is we'll consider each mode of failure, and in that each mode of failure, we will be finding out what will be the angle of the rupture plane and what will be the normal stress sigma 1 at failure of the reinforced soil. Okay. So let us consider the first mode of failure, that is rupture failure of reinforcement, and we have already found out what will be the sigma T for rupture failure. It will be this equation, that is Tu into the total number of layers, that is B cos theta by SV. Now we can substitute this value of sigma T in equation 6, which is this equation. Okay, so in that, when we substitute the value of sigma T and we have to find it in terms of sigma 1, so here basically we have to find the sigma 1 at failure. That is our intention. So in order to find the sigma 1 or the maximum value of sigma 1 at failure, we have to here if we look at the only variable is theta here, so we can differentiate theta. We can differentiate this equation with respect to theta and equate it to 0, and then we can find the value of theta. So this will give you the theta at failure, basically the angle of the rupture plane. Okay, so that will be 45 minus 5 by 2. Now when we substitute this value of theta in this sigma 1 equation, we will get the sigma 1 at failure. So finally we will get the equation for the normal stress at failure for the reinforced soil, or basically the normal stress of the reinforced soil, which will be sigma 3 plus Tu by SV the whole into Kp. Okay, so this is the equation for the normal stress at failure for reinforced soil whose mode of failure is by rupture. Okay. Now the next mode of failure that we have to consider is the sliding failure of the reinforcement. So for the sliding failure also, we have found out if sliding failure occurs, what will be the equation for sigma of T. So the force in each layer will be 2 times sigma 1 into Le into Br into mu, the whole into number of layers. So number of layers is given by the equation B cos theta by SV. Now we can substitute this value of sigma T in this equation of sigma 1, okay, which we had earlier derived. So on simplifying this equation, this will be the final equation that we derive. So here also, if you want to find the sigma 1 at failure, then we have to we have to differentiate the only variable here, that is theta. Okay, and on differentiating that with respect to theta and equating it to 0, we can find what will be the angle at failure. Okay, basically the rupture surface angle, rupture plane angle we will get. So that is pi by 4 minus 5 by 2. Okay, in substituting this value of theta in sigma 1 equation, we'll be able to know what will be the normal stress of the reinforced soil at failure. Okay, so this is how we get the equation for sigma 1. Sigma 1 R simply denotes the normal stress of the reinforced soil. So on further simplifying this, here if you see sigma 3 into this whole thing is a constant. Okay, so we can write that as sigma 3 into Kp bar. Now Kp bar is called as the modified coefficient of passive earth pressure. Now from the various triaxial tests conducted on reinforced soils, two main observations were made. Okay, so the first observation was that when these triaxial test was conducted at lower confining pressures on reinforced soil, the reinforced soil failed by means of pull out. Okay, basically the reinforcements failed by means of pull out. Now that happens when higher strength reinforcements are used within the soil. Okay, so we have already seen that when higher strength reinforcements, that is TU greater than the shear resistance developed along the layer is used, then pull out failure happens. Okay, in addition to insufficient embedment length. So when these tests were conducted, the same pull out failure was also observed at lower confining stresses or pressures. Now the next observation that they found was that when the tests were conducted at higher confining stresses or pressures, the failure of the reinforcement was by means of rupture. Okay, because see, the rupture failure usually occurs when this RP, that is the shear resistance developed along the soil, is greater than the TU, that is the tensile strength of the reinforcement. So you can imagine that when such a case happens, and in addition to that, when higher confining pressures are applied, the reinforcement, the failure itself will be by means of rupture. Okay, so when you are asked numericals, asking for the mode of failure in the given soil, then you can compare the value of sigma 3 with sigma of TU and see which condition is followed. Okay, so if the sigma 3 is found to be lesser than sigma TU, then the failure will be by pull out, and if the sigma 3 is found to be greater than sigma TU, then the failure will be by means of rupture. So we said that several different tests were conducted on reinforced soils by using reinforcements at different spacings and different number of reinforcements. So all these tests were basically conducted on dry sands, as I said, because we always prefer a frictional soil to be used in the case of reinforcement. Okay, in the case of reinforced soil. So from all these tests, the basic conclusion that we saw was that the strength of the reinforced soil increased, or it was much higher than the strength of the unreinforced soil. Okay, so in order to justify these strength, there were several concepts developed. Okay, so basically the strength, we can say that the additional strength or the improvement in strength of the reinforced soil can be due to the vertical spacing between the reinforcement layers, the strength and stiffness of reinforcement, and the interaction between soil and reinforcement. That is, these three factors will govern the strength introduced or the improvement in strength in reinforced soil. So if we talk about the vertical spacing SV between the reinforcement layers, see, I've already said that the vertical spacing can neither be too large or too small. Okay, so if it is too large, there is a chance that localized failure will occur between these reinforcements. That is, you are reinforcing the soil by intercepting the rupture plane so that no failure of soil happens. Okay, but if you're going to provide the reinforcements at a larger spacing, means between the reinforcements itself there will be localized, there will be a possibility of localized failure of soil. Okay, so and even if you're going to bring the spacing too small, then what happens is that there will not be there will be an insufficient space for the bond strength to develop between the soil and the reinforcement. So basically you always have to optimize the spacing. It can't be neither too large or too small. Okay. Now the next factor that decides the additional strength is the strength and stiffness of the reinforcement. Now this depends upon the type of material that we are choosing as reinforcement. See, we have seen that there are different materials used, like we have stiffer materials like the steel rods, and then we have the flexible materials like the polymer ones or the geosynthetic materials that we have seen. Okay, so compared to your stiffer ones like steel rods, your polymeric materials are lesser in strength. Okay, so basically the material which you add into the reinforcement, the material which you add into the soil as reinforcement, that also decides on the final strength improvement. Okay, and the third is the interaction between the soil and the reinforcement. Now that is, we have seen that there is something called as the interfacial angle or the friction factor. Okay, so if the interfacial angle is too small, that means the reinforcement is smooth, so there will not be much interaction between soil and reinforcement. But if the interfacial angle is large, that means the reinforcement will be rough and there will be better interaction between the or interlocking between the soil and the reinforcement. Okay, so different concepts were developed out of this reinforced soil test. Now these concepts were developed to justify, okay, so these concepts actually justifies the improvement in strength in reinforced soil, okay, as seen from all the tests. So the major three different concepts are concept of apparent cohesion or pseudo cohesion, then concept of equivalent confining stress, and then concept of expanding soil mass. So first I'll explain the concept of apparent cohesion or pseudo cohesion. Now in this test, so here, so this is the Mohr circle, okay. So Mohr circle is between the shear stress and normal stress. So we will be conducting triaxial test on reinforced soil samples, and here you can see that the unreinforced soil sample was tested at a confining stress of sigma 3, and the sigma 1, that is the normal stress at failure obtained for the unreinforced soil, was sigma 1. Okay, now what we did was we kept the confining stress constant at sigma 3 itself, and then we conducted the test for reinforced soil. Okay, then what happened? Even when the confining stress was kept constant, we saw that the reinforced soil failed at a much higher normal stress of sigma 1r. Okay, so we can see from the diagram itself that the improvement in the strength found in reinforced soil is by an amount delta sigma 1. Okay, so when the strength envelopes were drawn for the Mohr circles, that is when the strength envelope for unreinforced soil was drawn, the angle of internal friction obtained was phi, and when the strength envelope was for the reinforced soil was drawn, then also the angle of internal friction obtained for the soil was phi itself. Okay, so basically when tests were conducted at constant confining pressure in unreinforced and reinforced soils, the angle of internal friction of soil remained same. Okay, and also there was an improvement in the normal stress at failure in reinforced soil by an amount delta sigma 1. Okay, and here the strength envelopes of the unreinforced and reinforced soil were parallel to each other, and as you can see there was an intercept made on the y-axis. Okay, so this intercept is called as the apparent cohesion or pseudo cohesion. Why? Because see, we are taking dry sand here as the testing soil. So in dry sand C value is 0, but here you can see that when we draw the Mohr circle, the strength improvement is justified by the development of a cohesion value C. Okay, so that is why in this concept the improvement in strength is due to the development of an apparent cohesion or pseudo cohesion. We can say it like that. Okay, so these are the observations made from this test. That is, we got the same value of phi in reinforced and unreinforced soils, and this test was conducted at constant confining stress, and we saw that the strength improved from sigma 1 to sigma 1R. Okay. Now the failure envelope for the reinforced soil, that equation can be written as sigma 1R is equal to Kp into sigma 3 plus Kp into Tu by Sv. Actually, we had derived this equation um, when we did the strength analysis for reinforced soil by considering the rupture mode of failure. So you can just refer back and see that we had derived this equation from the analysis done by assuming a rupture mode of failure. So if we compare this equation 1 with the equation given by Rankine and Bell for a C5 soil, that is sigma 1 is equal to Kp into sigma 3 plus 2c root Kp. So on comparing these two equations, we will get Kp into Tu by Sv is equal to 2c root Kp. Okay, so from this you will get the equation for apparent cohesion or pseudo cohesion C. C will be equal to Tu by 2Sv into root of Kp. So where Tu is the tensile strength of each layer of reinforcement, Sv is a vertical spacing between the reinforcements, and Kp is the coefficient of passive earth pressure. So that can be determined once the phi value is known. So if phi value is known, you can determine Kp as 1 plus sin phi by 1 minus sin phi. Now for this concept, see, you have to know, for all the concepts you should know how the Mohs circle is drawn and what are the parameter observations made. Okay, so here the only equation that you need to study is C is equal to Tu by 2Sv into root of Kp. So you will be given the parameters to compute these values, and using these values you can find out apparent cohesion or pseudo cohesion for this reinforced soil. Okay, so very simple numerical problems will be asked as per your syllabus. So you basically have to know how the test was conducted and how they arrived at the conclusion as made in this concept. Okay, so it's a very simple concept. There's only one equation to study. So now we will move on to the next concept. So the next concept is concept of equivalent confining stress. Now here in this concept, if you see the Mohs circle, the test for the unreinforced soil was conducted at a confining stress of sigma 3u. Now sigma 3u denotes the confining stress of the unreinforced soil, and we found that the Mohs circle or the soil failed at a normal stress of sigma 1u. Okay, sigma 1u represents the normal stress of the unreinforced soil at failure. Now, when we conducted the test for reinforced soil at a higher confining stress, okay, that is sigma 3r, the reinforced soil fails at sigma 1r. So here also we can see that there is an improvement in strength by delta sigma 1 amount, by an amount of delta sigma 1. And and when we drew the strength envelope, it could be drawn as a common tangent. So we got so basically the phi value for both the soils obtained as the same value. Okay, so here the increase in strength is justified by the increase in the confining stress delta sigma 3. Okay, so this delta sigma 3 is called as the equivalent confining stress, which causes the increase in strength in reinforced soil. So here for this concept, what you have to remember is that this test was conducted at two different confining stresses. That is, unreinforced soil was conducted at a confining stress of sigma 3u, and reinforced soil test was conducted at a higher confining stress of sigma 3r. Okay, and we found that the strength in the reinforced soil improved. So that is, and when we drew the strength envelope also, we got the same value of phi, that is angle of internal friction, for both the reinforced and unreinforced soil. And so the improvement in strength is justified by the presence or the increase in a confining stress. Okay, so that is by an amount delta sigma 3. So delta sigma 3 is called as the equivalent confining stress, and there is a relation between the delta sigma 3 and RP and SV. This is from the Federal Highway Report. So delta sigma 3 is directly proportional to the shear resistance developed along the soil, and it is inversely proportional to the vertical spacing. So if a numerical is asked where you are asked to find equivalent confining stress of the soil, you can simply use this equation, and RP will be 2 times sigma 1 into LE into the width of the reinforcement into the friction factor mu or tan delta. So you can use this equation for finding out the equivalent confining stress, which causes the improvement in strength in reinforced soil. And also basically we can write sigma 3R, that is the confining stress of the reinforced soil, as sigma 3U plus delta sigma 3. Okay, so only these two relations you have to remember in the case of equivalent confining stress. So this is also a very simple concept. So just make sure that you are well known with the conditions of the test. Okay. So the last concept that I'll be explaining is a concept of expanding soil mass. Now, till now we have been controlling the confining stress parameter and then observing the improvement in strength for soil. Now in this triaxial test, what we'll be doing is, see, we conducted the test of reinforced soil, and the confining stress was, for the unreinforced soil, this is the Mohs circle for unreinforced soil, and the unreinforced soil parameters are confining stress sigma 3U and normal stress sigma 1. Okay, now what we did was, this is for reinforced soil. Okay, so this Mohs circle is for reinforced soil. So here while conducting the test for reinforced soil, we kept sigma 1 constant. Okay, so we kept the normal stress constant and then conducted the test. So we got the Mohs circle like this. So basically there was a decrease in the confining stress from sigma 3U to sigma 3R. Okay. But if you can see, if we draw the strength envelope for these two Mohs circles, you can find that the angle of internal friction obtained for reinforced soil is much higher than the angle of internal friction of the unreinforced soil. So basically there was an improvement in the strength here also. Okay, in the case of expanding soil mass. See, why this is called as an expanding soil mass concept is that, see, when the confining stress on the soil sample is released, the soil will be free to expand. Okay, so that is how the expansion of soil mass takes place, and that is why we have named this concept as concept of expanding soil mass. Okay, so when that was done, we also found an increase in the angle of internal friction from phi u to phi r. Okay, so here for this concept, just remember that here the test was conducted by holding sigma 1 constant. Okay, and we found that the confining stress reduced from sigma 3u to sigma 3r, and when we drew the strength envelopes, we found that the angle of internal friction of the reinforced soil was much higher than the angle of internal friction of the unreinforced soil. So there was definitely an increase in strength. Okay, so that's all about all the concepts. So just understand the basic conditions of the triaxial test for all these concepts. So it will be easier for you, and just follow the simple equations which I have given for these concepts, and based on this very simple numerical problems will be asked. Okay, so for solving that you need to understand the basic of this concept. Okay, then thank you.